What's up, guys? Coach Az back again with another episode of Questions with Coach. And this week I've got a question from one of my young students, and he asks, how do I manage my emotions at tournaments and in competition? He actually asked, how do I manage my emotions and breathing? But what he probably doesn't realize is that his breathing, or what he's noticing changing in his breath, is part of his emotional response. So really what we're getting at is, how do I stay calm? How do I stay in a frame of mind that allows me to perform my best whilst competing? They say that your best work is always done in the training room. So your best sparring rounds, your best techniques, all of that stuff is at the training room. And it's very few people who can convert that to the competitive field. And this applies, we're kickboxing, we're boxing, we're jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. It's all the same when it comes to the mind games that we can play with ourselves. The first thing to understand and to appreciate is that every single fighter experiences this. So take any world champion, take anyone who's been doing this for 20 plus years, etc., right down to the kid doing his first one. We all experience fear, and we all experience the anxiety attached with stepping on that mat to compete. It's very daunting. Like, when you think about it, you're stepping onto a mat or into a ring or into a cage with one other person whose sole job is to hit you or choke you or kick you, whatever it might be. And your sole objective is to make sure that they don't do that and to do it to them. Okay, so just take that whole concept and then add the fact that there's probably people around watching. There might be people recording it. It might be getting filmed. It might end up on the internet. And all of this adds up to an awful lot of anxiety, and it's completely understandable. So that's the first thing, is what we're not trying to do, and what I never recommend is to try and become this like emotionless machine where you just turn into a robot and you don't feel anything. What we need to be able to do is to channel that emotion into a useful and effective tool. It needs to become part of the arsenal. And this is where the breathing comes in. So this student who asked this question asked, how do I control my breathing? Because they've noticed that when it comes to competition, they start not breathing. They find themselves becoming exhausted, becoming fatigued during the fight and even before, because they're not regulating and managing their breath. This is all part of our natural fight or flight response. And I always like to remind my students that there's actually a third response, which is freeze. So fight is you're going to turn around to the saber-toothed tiger and you're going to attack it. Flight is you're going to run from the saber-toothed tiger and hope you can get away. But the third response, which is very typical of a lot of animals, is the freeze response, where you just go completely still, almost like you're playing dead, hoping it hasn't seen you, hoping it doesn't notice you, and often dying. And the breathing is all associated with this. So what happens is we start doing very short, very shallow breaths. We're not taking in much oxygen. We're breathing very small. In my opinion, this is our natural fight or flight response of trying to almost disguise ourselves. We've become very small. We've become very compact. The problem with that, of course, is we're not oxygenating our body, which means that the second we need to perform with it, punch, kick, blitz, whatever it might be, that's not going to happen because you've not got the oxygen running through your muscles in order to do it. So the first thing is to remember to breathe deeply, deep and calm. Diaphragmatic breathing, which means I'm breathing from down here, not from up here. It's not... This is facial breathing. I'm breathing in through my mouth and it's just kind of coming back to here. Diaphragmatic breathing, I'm trying to take that breath down, deep into my lungs. So I'm focusing down here. It's almost like a meditation. And of course, if you think about what meditation is for, it has a calming effect. It has a grounding effect. It helps to focus us. So when you start feeling these emotions crop up at you in a tournament, and it might be that, you're starting to put your equipment on or your uniform, or you've seen the pool and you've noticed who's in your division, who's here today, That's when it's time to start consciously start breathing, start grounding yourself. Beyond that, you also want to develop what's called an anchor. So think of a big ship in the ocean and you need to hold it in a place. You drop the anchor down into the sea and it holds it there. Again, the word grounding. Your anchor needs to be something very personal to you. So it might be the order that you put your equipment on. It might be a little routine you do when you get on the mats. You see it. Go watch any fighting sport. You'll see people doing all kinds of things. Maybe they do a little prayer. Maybe they slam their gloves together. Maybe they pace up and down a certain way or do certain movements. It's a routine that you replicate every time you fight, and ideally you also replicate it in training. So what happens is you build an association in your mind between these actions and performance. Okay? You don't do this action at any other time other than when it comes time to fight, when it comes time to spar, when it comes time to compete. And what it operates as is a little mental switch. You go from being, take me for example, outside of martial arts, I am just a very nice guy. I hold doors for people. I will pay for someone in a shop if I see they're struggling for money. I'll go out of my way to be a very nice, very helpful human being. Now this is great. It's not really ideal for a fighting situation. So I have a certain routine, I have a certain thing I do, which flicks a switch in my mind temporarily to turn me into the fighter. And the fighter is a temporary state of mind that we use for competition. It's not a maniac. You're not suddenly a lawbreaker. You're not going to kill anyone. You're not trying to hurt anybody, if you get what I mean. You're just putting yourself in the right frame of mind to be able to compete. Okay? So work out what that is for you. And the best way to do this is in training, is outside of competition, especially when you're having a good day. So when you're having one of those days at sparring where you're just untouchable, every time you step up on that mat, you're just smashing every partner you get. You want to start creating an association between that guy or that girl, that person that you were in that moment. You want to be able to recreate them. You want to be able to summon them when the time comes. So associate an action with it. It might be a real simple thing like hitting your gloves together. Your gloves will make a very specific sound. Yeah, they're your gloves. They weigh a certain amount. They've got a certain feel to them. You're going to hit them with a certain amount of force, and you associate that tick, that boom noise with this guy, this girl. You capture that moment, which you can then transfer onto the mats. The last thing I'll say is, guys, please remember that it's just competition. Okay, for the majority of you, it's amateur sport and it's just your weekend, and it's meant to be, above all else, something you enjoy to do. Keep it in perspective with the wider scheme of things. Worst case scenario, you step on that mat today and you get knocked out viciously with a jumping, spinning kick to the face. It's happened to me. I know what it feels like. Believe me that within a few days, within a week, that disappears into nothing. It becomes completely irrelevant and you move on with your life, okay? And keep that in mind, that don't put it all up on such a pedestal that you think your whole life revolves around how this next 2 minutes is going to go. It's not the reality. Don't put that kind of pressure onto yourself. Enjoy it, compete to the best of your ability, train to the best of your ability, and remember to breathe. Guys, I hope that's been helpful. If you have any advice for people who are new to competition or are dealing with anxiety, please comment down below so that we can help more people out. If you'd like to ask me a question and get my opinion on things, then you can drop it down in the comments, or you can DM us via our Instagram or our Facebook page, Warrior Martial Arts. Guys, I'll see you on the next one.